You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Okay, we're back with Vincent Hill on the Steve McNair murder and podcast investigation. Vincent, you moved. Tell us a little about what's going on here.
Yeah, so I moved to Savannah, Georgia, maybe 2 weeks ago now. I took the role as morning anchor for a local station down here. So my days are starting at around 1 in the morning now and going until about 11 in the morning. So early mornings and early nights to bed. But hey, it's Monday through Friday. I got my weekends off, and it's almost like having a 3-day weekend on a Friday because I'm off at 11, come home and take a nap, and then I get out and start doing adult stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you made it there safely. Last week, we had Jay McWilliams, who's a retired police officer up in Visalia and Tulare County up in Central California. He's a friend of a friend, but we wanted to have him. He actually has a podcast as well, and I thought it was interesting. I met him through a friend of mine who, believe it or not, was a football agent. And so he's actually connected me with some of the people, and he's trying to connect me with more people that knew Steve through the football world. So hopefully we're going to have some of those people on, his former teammates and coach and stuff like that. But Jay had as a retired investigator, police officer, he knew about the case, but he didn't really know so much. But before the podcast, he took a deep dive into it. And I tell you, he was like astonished on all the mistakes that he felt that were made in this investigation and stuff like that. So he was dumbfounded. He literally just retired last year. So he's been in it, and he's had thousands of investigations and stuff like that. And he is the big one that he was talking about is the fact that how these potential participants or suspects were interviewed.
Right.
And the fact that, why there wasn't a lot more pressure put on them.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I've been saying that since 2009. And of course, my old department has always said, oh, he's just got an axe to grind, which I never did. And, oh, he never investigated a homicide, which is true because I worked flex, I worked CSU, I worked patrol. But I know, 1 and 1 equals 2, not 1 and 1 equals 8. And just to hear, that this seasoned investigator who's not even affiliated with Nashville or the case found those holes, that that just made my day. That just made my week. So
yeah, he doesn't even figure out. He couldn't even understand how they resulted in Jenny pulling the trigger, and all that stuff. He was just nothing added up.
Right.
And that, you had people that obviously had some sort of potential motive against him that weren't pressed. And plus the fact that, they waited so long before the 911. He goes, that was a huge thing right there. Why do you wait that long?
Yeah, well, they tried to explain that. Chief Ronald Surpass tried to explain that way back on July 8th, 2009, that, sometimes when people go through an event, they lose track of time. They get fixated and lose track of time. I'm like, yeah, but 45 minutes, like, not when you're looking at 2 dead bodies. And one of those dead bodies is like one of your closest friends, allegedly. Like, you don't lose that kind of 45 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, maybe, but not 45 minutes.
And don't wait for someone else to come down there.
Right.
Like, he waited for Gaddy to get down there.
Yeah, call 911 and then call Gaddy and say, hey, I think Steve's here dead, but that didn't happen.
That didn't happen. So it was interesting. You should go back and listen to it and see what he thinks. But it was interesting to hear from him. There was also one of the things in my notes that I wanted to bring up too is Steve's former chauffeur, Tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about him and that night.
Yeah, so I believe his name was Ali, if memory serves me correctly. And what he told police was really crucial. Because, he would drive Steve around. It's no secret Steve had a couple of DUIs, and, Steve had a driver. So on that Friday night, he took Steve to the condo Friday night slash Saturday morning, right around 1:30. Steve paid him, I want to say $130 cash. And he parked Steve's vehicle behind the Escalade. Steve was driving a black Lincoln Navigator. He parked it behind the Escalade and caught a ride home, I believe. He also worked for a taxi company, this alley guy, so he had one of his friends pick him up from the condo. But what's really important when, the next day when all the TV crews and cameras were there and he saw that the Escalade and the Navigator were essentially, hood to hood, meaning someone had moved the Navigator, he called police. He's like, hey, listen, I took Steve home, just earlier this morning. That's not where I parked the vehicle. So the question has always been, well, who moved the vehicle? Steve's dead, Jenny's dead, and I know for a fact the radio station right across the street that had cameras facing that parking lot, the uh, engineer that was working there turned over a video to Nashville police of a black large SUV speeding away from the crime scene right around the time of the murders. And then all of a sudden you have Ali telling police, well, that's not where I parked his SUV. So the question is, who moved that SUV in the wee hours of the morning of July 4th? Because if his driver's telling you, hey, that's not where I parked it, then there's a big piece to this puzzle that's still missing.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing in the reports about that at all.
Not at all. There is something in one of the supplement reports where Ali told police, that's not how I parked the vehicle, but they never followed up on it. Uh, just like they never followed up on the video of the SUV leaving the scene, because on the day of the press conference is when they got the video from the engineer at the radio station, and he's thinking they're going to say, okay, we're looking for this black SUV that may be involved in Steve's death. They never said anything about that.
Were they able to read the license plate on it?
I don't know, because they never mentioned it in any supplement report, any report anywhere. There's no narrative about the vehicle being moved or even the vehicle. Well, there is narrative about it being moved because Ali told them that, but there's no narrative about a vehicle seen leaving the area at a high rate of speed that night anywhere in any supplement report that Nashville has ever filed.
That doesn't even make any sense. So wait, the SUV was moved by someone because Ali knows where he parked it, right? And then
He's
that night,
confident.
how do we know that it left the scene that night?
There's a videotape.
Right. But who took the
Well,
videotape?
Yeah, so the video was a camera. There's a radio station, at least there was back in '09. I don't know what's there now. I think the radio station's still there, but there's a radio station across the street from the parking lot to where the condo is. And they have cameras that face that street, which is Lee Avenue. And on that surveillance footage, you see a black SUV. I believe he said it was two, but he said one was dark and large, which would fit the Lincoln Navigator or the Cadillac Escalade that were both in Steve's name. So you can't say it's an open and shut case if you're not trying to track down a vehicle seen fleeing at a high rate of speed right around the time of the murders, especially when you add to it that the driver, Ali, is telling you, hey, that's not where I parked this vehicle. So, okay.
So they never looked into the surveillance footage. They never figured out where this vehicle was going, who was driving, nothing. It was just ignored completely.
What did Gaddy drive?
It was ignored. Well, Gaddy had access to Steve's vehicle. Sometimes he would drive Steve's vehicles because, he was Steve's quote unquote bodyguard and business associate. So, I mean, could it have been Gaddy driving it? Maybe, but he also drove a very large SUV that, again, if you go back and look at footage from that day, you can see his Nissan, what is it called? Nissan, whatever their big boxy SUV
Hmm.
was back in the day. I can't remember the make, but yeah. So, and keep in mind too, Gaddy sold vehicles for Nissan or Rivergate. So chances are he probably had a few vehicles he had access to at any given time.
Wow, that's crazy. That's
That's
crazy that was never followed up because it was what time was the timestamp of the video of the SUV, the dark SUV pulling away,
If
speeding away.
if I remember what Cameron told me, he said it was about 10:12, or I'm sorry, 2:12, 2:15 in the morning, something like that. And we know Steve got dropped off at the condo around 1:30. He's dead less than an hour later, so that would fit into the time frame of when this SUV was seen leaving the scene. But even if it wasn't involved, let's just play devil's advocate. You still have to follow up on that lead. There's no way you don't follow up on that lead. Kind of like the neighbor next door found a bullet in their wall. Like, okay, well, what time? When did this happen? Like, what did you see? What did you hear? Like, there's so many things that they just like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a murder, suicide, whatever, you know. Eh, Jenny and Steve can come back from the dead right now and say, this is what happened. No, it was a murder, suicide.
So there was also, I believe, a text at 2:30 a.m. from
Mhm.
Steve's phone. Can you talk about that?
So there was a text to Steve from Jenny's phone that she was going to the store. It's been my belief forever that that was a red herring to throw investigators off, and maybe Jenny wasn't gonna die that night, but she just got caught in it, in the very end. But the way Nashville police, when I say they, explained that was, oh, well, sometimes text messages are delayed. I'm like, yep, that is 100% true. But the thing is, what they said is sometimes when you receive a text message, it could be, 20, 30 minutes, an hour later, which is true. But when you couple that with calling T-Mobile, like I did, because that's who Jenny's carrier was, and asking them like, hey, so if I send a text at 2:38 and the person doesn't get it until the next day, what time will show up on my phone records? And they say the time you had sent, because that's what we track, and gets what time is exactly on her phone records, the exact time that text message went out. So the whole, oh, it was a delayed text or what, like, why would you even make that up? And again, unless you're trying to make your narrative fit to say, oh, she sent that hours ago, before she killed him. But then you would have to explain, well, we tracked her down to this store because here's video of her at the store. And, so again, it was just a red herring, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do we know what the content of that text was?
Just that I'm going to the store. That's
Oh,
what
okay.
it said. I'm going to the store. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So it sounded like someone was. Yeah. That
so. It
seems.
sounds like someone sent that from her phone at 2:30 in the
Yes.
morning,
That's been my
and
belief. Hmm.
trying to make it sound like she was going to the store. But
Yes.
why?
Again, maybe that was sent right before, the murders. And just to throw investigators off, maybe she wasn't going to die that night, right? Maybe even Steve wasn't even going to die that night. But why would she send him a text saying, I'm going to the store, when she just invited him to the condo and she's in a bra and panties? She's found in a bra and panties, right? So obviously she's not going to the store. So it's safe to say she was not the one who sent that text message. It would not even make sense. Like, he's coming over at 1:30 in the morning. She's in a bra and panties. We know it's a booty call. She's found in a bra and panties. So why text him going to the store if you're still in a bra and panties? And what store is open at 2:30 in the morning anyway?
It doesn't even make sense.
Do we know if there's any stores open 24/7 other than just like a 7-Eleven?
I was going to say, like, you may have your BP gas stations, your Tiger Marts, which are big in Nashville, which is a gas station, your Crystals, your White Castle restaurants, but like, there are no stores open at 2:30 in the morning. And I think if she was going to say Walmart, she'd have text, I'm going to Walmart, right? Because maybe
Mhm.
Walmart is 24/7, but those are text you say specifically, I'm going to Walmart, I'm going to Target, not I'm going to the store. That's so generic. And again,
Mhm.
what's open at 2:30 in the morning while you're in a bra and panties?
Doesn't make sense. Once again, another thing that doesn't make sense.
So many things don't make sense. I mean, between that a video of the SUV fleeing the scene, how would you not follow up on that? That makes absolutely no sense. And
I
then
don't
this
know.
random errant text message from her after she's already deceased. I mean,
Right.
these are red flags.
Yeah.
Right.
Did they ever? I mean, let's talk about the time of death and the autopsy, because I think that because there's some questions about rigor mortis,
Mhm.
you know, and stuff like that. Tell us a little bit about what you know about that.
Well, I know Steve was in full rigor mortis. I think she was partial or not exactly full, which is questionable as well, because if they died, excuse me, at the same time, you would assume their bodies would be in the same state of rigor mortis. But I've always questioned their theory of how they say it happened. Right? Steve shot
Mm-hmm.
once in each temple, twice in the chest, and then they say she set to Steve's right. So when she shot herself, she would fall into his lap. And then gravity eventually took her down to the floor.
That's
And
what they're saying.
yes, that's what they're saying. But the science and that's not logical. The math is not mathing, as kids say. Like, that doesn't happen. You're going to sit next to him to shoot yourself, to fall into his lap, and then eventually gravity's going to pull you down to the floor. And it's not going to move any piece of furniture. It's not going to move the ottoman that's right in front of the couch. It's not going to move any of this. Like, I had a buddy who retired from Nashville police who saw the crime scene photos before they took them down and told people never to look at these and never to tell anybody about what happened. And he told me his exact words were, Vincent, it looked like someone painted a picture of the crime scene. I was like, what do you mean? He said it was too perfect. He said nothing was out of place. And he said for what to have happened the way they said it, he said that's impossible.
Why did they? I mean, so the crime scene photographs aren't available at all.
No, so there's been several people that have tried to FOIA those crime scenes, and they always say, well, it's part of the investigation. Well, the investigation is closed. Now, I know I did a podcast a few years ago. There were certain pictures they released, like Steve's bloody shoes, pictures of the kitchen. Like, even when they were showing Lucille, who's Steve's mom, crime scene photos, they never showed her pictures of the body. They were showing her pictures of the garage and the kitchen. And it's like, what does that have to do with the crime scene? What does that have to do with the bodies? And I think the biggest issue of why they haven't released those is because if they do, people are going to look at it and say, this doesn't look right. You'll look at a picture for like 20 minutes, scratching your head, and then, oh, that's what it is. And I think the reason they won't, because let's think about this, right? Michael Jackson, they just had a biopic on him, or movie, one of the biggest stars ever, if not the biggest. I guarantee you can Google his crime scene photos right now. You can see his dead body laying on the bed, right?
Yep.
So why can we not do that for Steve McNair, who, not taking anything away from his star power, but he wasn't the star quality caliber of a Michael Jackson, who was known worldwide in different countries. But I can go see his crime scene photos right now. But I can't do that for Steve McNair. That should tell you something.
That I don't even know how they can get away with that.
I don't know. They keep citing
Well,
the
we'll see.
investigation.
We'll put in a FOIA request and see what's coming back. We haven't got anything back yet, so we'll see.
Well, I would tell you don't hold your breath, because you won't be the first or probably the last. And if you do hear back, it's going to be citing the investigation. We cannot release these crime scene photos. That's their narrative with that.
But that's
not
contradictory.
That's completely contradictory.
It's
The whole
very
point
contradictory, because the investigation is closed.
Right. It's not an ongoing investigation. So what's
Right.
wrong?
Murder suicide.
That's what they said.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, the other thing I want to talk about a little bit is the fact that which I did not know this, was that Steve was a sworn in peace officer
Yep.
in Mississippi. Tell us
Yep.
that story, because that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So little known fact. Steve was sworn with Greenville, Mississippi police. He was actually supposed to start the academy that Monday. So, when I'm originally, when I get all this paperwork, I'm looking at uh, the property report, and it listed Greenville police badge, Greenville, Mississippi police ID. And I'm like, police, like, what is this? What is this? What is this? And I start calling around, and, come to find out, it was Steve's badge and ID, and Steve was a sworn police officer in Greenville, Mississippi. So, playing devil's advocate, and I'm not saying this had anything to do with it, how do you not even investigate that to see if, wow, did Steve, tick someone off in Greenville? Did Steve come across the wrong person in Greenville, and they knew Steve lived in Nashville, and they conspired to do a hit on him? Not saying it happened, because I believe I know who did these murders, but it's still an avenue you investigate. And the fact that Nashville police didn't even call Greenville police, another police department, and say, hey, so we found one of your officers dead inside a condo here in Nashville. Again, was it a murder suicide? Is the case closed? Because why would you not call that department and say, hey, one of your officers was found dead here in Nashville? You know how Greenville, Mississippi police found out? I made a call to someone who knows Steve, who knows the chief in Greenville, who called him and said, what do you mean his badge and ID was found there and they never called us?
Wow.
I think could have been that Steve, since he had just become a sworn police officer, started investigating what happened to his money and the people around him.
I mean, it could be. There are rumors and innuendos that people are stealing a lot of money from Steve, especially right before his death. Some of those people in Mississippi. So could be. Again, that's an avenue you would definitely want to investigate. Like I said, did Steve come across the wrong person in Greenville, Mississippi? Did he tick off the wrong person in Greenville, Mississippi, who's like, oh, he's got to go? But the fact that, that would be like if someone walked in and there's an FBI agent dead on someone's couch, and the cops never call the FBI to say, hey, one of your special agents is dead here in a murder. Like, what? Who does that? Who does that?
Yeah. Who were the people that were around him that were kind of, obviously we know Buzz Cook was his agent. He hasn't really spoken to anybody about this. Like financially, who was handling his finances? I mean, who was, because I think when he comes out, because, he was a target. I mean, anybody with that amount of money and with that amount of access, all the people, you got to look at all the people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. So to answer that question, of course, Robert Gaddy, who again was in business dealings with Steve, and if you go back to his, I won't even call it interrogation, his interview that day, he told police about a falling out they had. It was about the $13,000 that Gaddy stole from Steve when Steve said he wasn't going to finance another business. Although Gaddy to this day denies that, but two other people independent of me who know Jenny told police the exact same thing, because Steve told them, and Steve's mother told me about the $13,000. So Gaddy was involved in Steve's money. He had access to it. Steve's business manager, if you will, a guy by the name of Raymond White, had access to it. Do I believe Raymond had anything to do with Steve's death? No. Steve was Raymond's money ticket, if you will. But he also was the same guy that transferred the $2,000 into Jenny's account on the day of the murders. So he had access to Steve's money. So, those are the two I know about. And, who knows who else had their hands in it, or if, this person told this person what the account number is, and that person told that person what the account number is, right? Because unfortunately, when you're dealing with people like that, unfortunately, that's what could happen.
There's also a woman named Marcia.
Mm-hmm.
Marcia Wright, a CPA.
Yeah,
what do you know about her?
CPA.
What do you know about her?
I've just heard a little bit about her. I know she was dealing with Steve's money. I can't confirm this personally, but someone did mention to me that she may have been involved in a bad investment with some of Steve's money that cost him a few $1,000,000. But again, I can't speak to that personally. I've never spoke to
Okay.
her, and like you said, Bus
Well,
Cook, I don't think has spoke to anyone.
Yeah, and according to some of the notes I have here is that she basically said that a guy named David McCullough, a banker, needs to be interviewed as well.
Right.
Who's this guy?
Right. I don't know. Honestly, that's the first time I'm hearing that name, but I've heard Marsha's name, since 2009. So
Okay. Well, we'll look into that because it sounds like she made a claim against him about Steve,
interesting.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's interesting that Buzz didn't speak at his funeral.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people didn't speak at his funeral. I mean, Gaddy was so torn up, but yet he never said a word at the funeral. At least he says he was torn up, But speaking of the funeral, where it was held. So there's a connection there, even though Nashville police say it wasn't. It was held at Mount Zion Baptist Church in Nashville, which is a big mega church that Steve attended. And one of the things Gilliam told police right off the bat, and I didn't even know Steve McNair lived in Nashville. But the ironic thing is the same Bishop Walker, who gave Steve's service at his church, was also the same Bishop Walker in December of 2009, who was at Adrian Gilliam's sentencing hearing, saying how he's an outstanding member of his church and he had really turned his life around. And, he's asking the court for leniency for this member of his church. So how do you tell Nashville police that you don't even know Steve lives in Nashville, but you go to the same church? Now, keep in mind, it is a mega church. I get that. But prime example, I'm just a local news anchor here in Savannah, Georgia. I went to church Sunday for the very first time for this church. And I just wanted to sit there and be low key, just, go to church, worship God, go home. Everyone there knew me. They came up to me, hey, I watch you all the time. I watch you. Even the pastor was like, hey, Vince Hill from, blah, blah, blah. So if I got that and I've only been here in Savannah for 2 weeks, there's no way you can tell me Adrian Gilliam did not know Steve McNair, the Titan quarterback, Nashville's hero, was a member of his church. I don't believe it. You can't convince me of that.
I don't believe that either.
Yeah. Anybody that does, I got some land I'll sell you.
Yeah. No, when I read that, I thought that was interesting. I mean, obviously he's a man of the cloth. He's, he believes in sinners and, and he wants them to repent and come around, but the timing is kind of weird.
Yeah, the timing is weird. And the fact that Nashville police blew me off saying, oh, one has nothing to do with the other. Yes, it does. Well, if he's telling you he doesn't know Steve lives in Nashville, but he goes to the same church, come on, it's Steve. Everyone's like, hey, Steve goes to our church. There's Steve right there. Mm-hmm. Hey, Steve, can I get a picture? Hey, Steve, I watched you play this play. Like, come on, bullcrap.
Take the exit. Turn right into the drive-thru.
Nope, I'm making dinner tonight.
You don't have time. Josh has practice.
Oh, that's right. I'll just get a salad.
And fries?
No, just the salad.
But salad cancels fries.
Salad only.
Fries.
Salad.
Fries.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on the road to successful weight loss.
Hey, can I get the
fries?
Salad. Sorry.
Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today and let us surprise you.
Absolutely.
So many things, but it's interesting though. I mean, this guy Raymond is an interesting character, and there's big bold letters here in my notes says no one's ever spoken to him.
Yeah, not even police. So, and I did ask Norris Tarkington, who was one of the lead investigators who's since left the department. And last I knew, the last I talked to him, he was working for the state attorney's office. I said, hey, like, why didn't you ever talk to Raymond? He's like, we tried. He told us he wouldn't talk to us. Okay. Like, but it's a murder investigation. Send a subpoena, right?
Well, that's not what his son says. Brian White says he wants to talk and
He
always
probably,
wants.
yeah, he probably does, right? I think the thing with Raymond, deep down inside, he probably knows like who orchestrated this whole thing. Um, so I can understand him being reluctant to talk because I mean, if they do this to Steve and an innocent girl, like what are they going to do to Raymond if he starts talking? So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't fault them for it. Would it help shed light on what happened? Absolutely, but at the same time, I get it.
Yeah. Are they both local Nashville people, or do you know about that?
Raymond and
Ryan.
his Ryan. Last I knew, they were in Nashville. But you know, Raymond changes his number quite a bit. So the last number I got for him is probably 3 years outdated by now because he constantly changes his numbers.
And then what did he do? What was his part in like the orbit of Steve?
Raymond.
Yeah.
So he was like his business manager. You know, I don't want to call him a gopher because I don't want to discredit him. But you know,
Okay.
whatever
So
Steve needed
he
done,
worked for Steve.
yeah, whatever Steve needed done, like he would go do it. You know, he would put the money in Jenny's account. He would go here. He would, you know, go pick this up for Steve. So yeah, he was just kind of like his business manager, I think is what they called him.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. A lot of people around him. I mean, not unheard of with a
Yeah.
former professional
Right.
Hall of Fame type individual, but still, it seems like he had a lot of hanger-ons.
Yeah, and not only that, he had a lot more people around him that would have known where his money is, how to get his money, right? Because
Mhm.
Raymond had access to his account to give money to Jenny, right? So all these people that had more access and more knowledge of what Steve had, in my opinion, should have been looked at way harder. Now, if Raymond is telling police, I don't want to talk, no problem. I'll be back with a subpoena in about an hour. One way or the other, we're going to get you to talk, right? You know, that day, we're not going to let time go by. Like, okay.
The thing that we spoke to Jay, the former law enforcement, on the podcast last week, is that he couldn't understand why they closed it so quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and then they continued looking into it.
Mm-hmm.
He says that usually never happens. Why would you waste police resources on
Right.
something unless they're just trying to cover their butt down the road in case something props up, a witness, a piece of evidence, and they say, oh, well, there's a new development in the case, and they want to get ahead of it. But,
Right.
you know, obviously we're talking July 4th, 4 weeks later, it was basically ruled a murder-suicide, or probably
Not
ruled
even
a
4 weeks. 4 days later.
4
days.
days.
Yeah.
4 days.
That's the thing. Like he even said, he goes 4 days. That's not her. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Especially a big high profile case like this. He goes, that's ridiculous. He goes,
Right.
all these people should have been interviewed. It should have been really taken months and months before they came to a conclusion
Yep.
on what happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they continue to look into it actively till that December.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mhm.
it's, you know, and who knows if they continued looking into it afterwards. Who knows? at
Was
this
there
point.
any ballistic analysis reports done? Do you know?
Yeah, I think we touched on this in a previous episode, but I know that when you look at the TBI report, the grain of the shell casings are different sizes, right? So, that tells me 2 guns, right? I've always thought there were 2 shooters, just like I always thought someone helped OJ kill Nicole and Ron, because you can't subdue 2 people with a knife. Somebody else has to be there to make sure someone doesn't get away. But and also to that point, when Lucille McNair and a couple of Steve's bodyguards and Steve's professor were able to go see the crime scene photos, which I was excluded from by Nashville police. They came out and told me, Vince, we got a problem. We saw silver shell casings and gold brass shell casings. So that again tells me two shooters, and it's corroborated by the TBI report that talks about the different grain sizes of the shell casings recovered. So there's a whole nother avenue that Nashville police, A, never mentioned, and B, never chased down. It's always been, oh, she did it. We got a gun here. That's it. Boom.
The bullet you said that was pulled out of the neighbor's wall, was that a bullet that went through somebody?
It went through the wall of, I think it was the one that went through Steve, but don't quote me on that. And here's why I say that, because there were also bullet holes above Steve's head, which tells me, okay, what are those shots? And someone that was really close to Steve said it best, and it makes sense to me. He's like, Steve wasn't scared of fighting someone. They said they believe those two shots in the wall were get Steve to sit down, because again, he was found sitting on the couch. But they said Steve would have fought any man. They didn't care who.
Oh, wait, I
Steve
think
didn't care who it was.
this is the first time I think we're hearing about the shots in the ceiling.
Well, that's why I was
I can't
asking,
remember it.
because I know we talked about the ballistics report before, but I don't recall hearing about the bullet holes.
No, there were two visible shots above where Steve was sitting. In fact, if you go back, and I think you can still find this on YouTube, if you go back and listen to Gaddy's 45-minute delayed 911 call, you actually hear him say, there's two bullet wounds, there's two bullet holes in the wall. Those are his exact words, and he said it in that exact tone. And then when you go back and look at some of the diagrams, you see the two bullet holes in the wall back.
Are they in the ceiling or are they in the wall?
They're in the wall. So like if I'm Steve and I'm on the couch, like they would be like here in the wall.
Got it.
Right. So, okay, granted, for argument's sake, if she pulled the trigger, she ain't that bad of a shot where she's like, "Pah, oops, I'm too high. Oh, I'm too high." Like, yeah, no. So you got different shell casings. That's confirmed by two people that did security for Steve, who said they saw silver and brass. You got the TBI report saying the grain size of the shell casings is different. You can't go mix bullets in a gun. Like, right? Like if you got a 9mm, it's going to take 9mm bullets.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't actually go buy mix and match bullets from an ammo store. Like, hey, let me get some brass, let me get some silver ones. Like, it doesn't happen that way. So you got all of these questionable things. You got unaccounted for, unexplained rounds in the wall.
Mm-hmm.
But yet it's still murder-suicide.
It doesn't make any sense.
So that's how many shots now we talking, including the ones with Jenny and her?
7.
7 shots.
Mm-hmm.
Were there 7 shell casings?
That I would have to go check the TBI report.
Because if there were some shell casings, it's not like they stopped to pick up some, but not others.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume they recovered all the shell casings at the scene. I would have to go look. But I'm glad you mentioned shell casing, because when you talk about the crime scene and contamination of the crime scene, I mean, Wayne Neely admitted to police that he picked up a shell casing. So, like, we don't know. There's a 45-minute window from the time Wayne Neely gets to the condo to the time 911 is called. And even though Gaddy says he didn't go in the condo, we know he went in the condo. So we don't know what was moved. We don't know what evidence was taken out of there. We don't know anything. Like, could it have been like, oh, this is too many shell casings for how many times Steve shot? Oh, we don't know any of this, right? So you have to explain what the heck happened in 45 minutes where it took them to call 911. Neely gets there at around 1:15. Gaddy gets there around, he says 15 minutes, which is impossible. I'll give it 1:45. And then they finally call 911. Neely didn't know if Steve was dead. He didn't know if Jenny was dead. There's literally a fire station right across the street, which has what? Trained EMTs. Hey, 911? There's 2 people here bleeding out. Heck, you could walk across the street faster.
I was going to say, I wouldn't have dialed 911. I would have just went and knocked on the door and bolted on the door and said, listen, we got.
Yeah, the delay in calling 911 is always the first red flag for us. I mean, that's ridiculous.
And that doesn't even match up with the timeline with her text at 2:30.
That's what I'm saying. Then there's a text at 2:30. And then what time was
the 2:30 was the 2:30 text was 2:30 a.m. right around the time of the murders. The 911 call was that afternoon.
Okay.
Whatever time it was in the afternoon. But still, like, why are you guys waiting 45 minutes? Like, let's process this. Like, if you came home right now, Rob, and saw your wife on the couch bleeding out, are you going to say, well, you know what? I should call my friend first. Hey, so yeah, she's over here bleeding out. Yeah, I'll wait for you to get here. Don't even worry about it. Yeah. And then when your friend finally gets there 30 minutes later, hey, we should call 911. You're absolutely right. But the way Nashville police explained it, Chief Surpass says, well, you know, sometimes in a traumatic experience, people lose track of time. Okay, I'll give you 1 minute. I'll give you up to maybe 5 minutes. But 45 minutes, your brain doesn't say, hey, I should call 911. Like, I'm just going to wait till the other guy gets here. Like, no.
Well, playing devil's advocate here, and like, as far as, you know, for Gaddy, is maybe because he was there with Jenny and it looked bad. And if it was a murder-suicide, they were trying to figure out some way to spin the story so it doesn't get out that it was a murder-suicide by his mistress.
There's no way he could have fixed that, right? At the end of the day, she's dead, Steve's dead, right? So there's nothing Gaddy could have done to make it look. The only thing Gaddy could have done to switch the narrative of a murder-suicide would be to go remove that gun from the crime scene. And then you just got
home invasion
dead, right? That's the only thing he could have done.
Mm-hmm.
But to that end, let's say the person who shot them, because I have to be careful, but again, I believe I know who did it, took the gun that night. What would Nashville police have to do? They would have to investigate this as a double murder, which they should have done from the beginning. Like, just because there's a gun there doesn't mean anything, right? Just go ask the Italian mob. They'll tell you.
They dropped the gun.
Yeah. Go ask the mob. They'll tell you we've been making it look like suicide for hundreds of years.
Right.
So,
but also, I mean, you walk in and you see your friend, even if you were trying to come up with a different narrative, how does he know they're dead?
how does he
Like,
know?
how does he know? How do you not want to save them? Like, you see blood, you're not an EMT, you don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You immediately call 911 because what if they're still alive?
Right.
What if they could be saved? I mean, we had something very similar in another case. I mean, the kid ran back to the house and said, oh, Noah's dead on the side of the road. How do you know that?
How do you know?
And why didn't you call 911? Why did you wait? You never even called 911. It took an hour and a half for a passerby to call 911. So that's the thing I don't understand. It's like you walk into a house, you see your friend on the ground bleeding. How do you know that they're dead? I mean, you don't know if you can saved or not. So wouldn't you want to get the ambulance there as quickly as possible?
Exactly.
I mean, even if it was, I mean, everybody knew he had a mistress. It's not a secret. The whole town knew that he was out with other women. It wasn't like this was like a secret.
Yeah, and Steve wasn't trying to hide it, right? Like,
right.
I mean
Nashville's
he's driving
small.
around town with her. He wasn't trying to hide it.
He's driving around town with her. He's giving her money. I mean, it's a small town.
Gave her a car.
Her friends at the restaurant knew. I mean, everybody knew. So who are you hiding it from? That doesn't make any sense. So to me, it's like you call 911. And if you can walk across the street, you go get the EMT and you bring them over. Look at what's going on here. Help us. You know, you don't just sit around for 45 minutes. And then a car leaves during that period of time.
Right.
Who's driving the car?
Who's driving the car? And speaking of that parking lot, here's one thing that's always rubbed me the wrong way. So you come on Lee Avenue, which is where the condo is. You turn into the parking lot. To the left are the 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 4 condos, right? To the
Mhm.
left. To the right of that parking lot is an apartment complex. Again, go back to the footage from that day, and you see people like kind of leaning over a fence with the pool in it. That is a apartment complex that shares the same parking lot of that condo. You know how many residents Nashville police interviewed in that apartment complex?
0.
Would you not want to talk to the people there and say, hey, around 2:30 in the morning, did you hear anything? Did you see anything? Were you on your patio smoking a cigarette, smoking a joint? Were you in the pool and you saw this?
What about the
They
people who
talked to
had
nobody.
bullets? What about the people next door who had bullets going through their house?
Their walls.
Their walls.
Well, they didn't find that until the next morning because they were out of town that Friday night. So they came in like,
Okay, so they weren't home.
yeah, they came in later that day, and it was like, oh, what's this police commotion? Oh crap, I got a bullet. So it was like, so they wouldn't have known. But wouldn't you want to still talk to the people that share the parking lot with the condo?
Isn't that really kind of standard procedure to kind of, I mean, canvass the area
Well,
and talk
it's
to
not.
neighbors? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a cop. Is it? I mean, you were a cop. Would
Yeah.
that be like if a crime happened and no one was around and was inside?
Right.
I would think you would start knocking on neighbors' doors to find out. Did you hear anything? Did you see anything? Did you hear anything? Did you
Yep.
see?
Yep. Well, that is standard procedure. What's not standard procedure is to close this in 4 days. But I guarantee there are about 50 people that they could have talked to. And who knows? It was a Friday night. It was right before 4th of July. It was a warm night. Maybe someone was out smoking a cigarette. Maybe someone was sitting on their patio drinking. Maybe anything that
Holiday
they could have
weekend,
said.
someone was up. Someone was
Yeah,
up.
it was 4th of July weekend. I mean,
Yeah. Yep.
it doesn't make
In
sense.
fact, I will try to find those images and send them to you. I know I have them somewhere in a folder electronically, but you'll see like the people standing up on the fence and kind of like looking over at police. And it's like, you guys didn't talk to any of these folks here. You didn't talk to any of these folks here. And I guarantee there's probably 1 or 2 that were like, oh, I know they're going to come talk to me because I saw it. Never did. And you know how people are. Unless police ask, they're not going to say a word. They're just
Right.
not. They don't want to be involved in it.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. None of it really makes sense to the point where, I mean, obviously the crime is the crime, but the way the crime was covered
Yeah.
and investigated, and that was the one thing that Jay said last week. And he just said there were so many opportunities to get information on this.
Yep.
There were so many people that you could, and like literally hard charging. You know, he said, you know, Gilliam, a former felon, he goes, I would have cuffed him up right there and taken him
right there.
down, and then just hard charged him to find out if because he's selling a gun. He's a felon. He's already committed another felony.
Yep.
So
Well,
boom.
But the problem is Tweedledee and Tweedledum, that's what I call them, Norris and Tarkenton, they didn't know, Robinson and Tarkenton, sorry. They didn't even know Gilliam was a convicted felon when they talked to him. They went and talked to the guy who they traced the gun back to at the pawn shop. He's like, I sold it to Gilliam for $100. They show at Gilliam's house 15 minutes later while he's calling, hey, I told the police I sold you the gun for $100. And what's the first thing out of Gilliam's mouth? I sold the gun to a girl I don't even know her name for $100. Where do you think he got that figure from? So they didn't even know he was a convicted felon to begin with. But I'll play devil's advocate. I still say, first, you don't interview him in front of his fiance to give him a chance to lie about this other female he's been talking to.
Right.
You take him down to Police Central, and you don't say, I want to talk to you about a gun used to kill Steve McNair. No, this is what you say. I got physical evidence tying you to 2 dead bodies.
That's exactly what Jay said. That's exactly what Jay said.
What he said.
He said that was the first question. I goes, I would make him start sweating from the get-go.
From the get-go. But mind you, I've never investigated a homicide. That's what Nashville police keeps going back to. But you got a seasoned investigator who's investigated hundreds of homicides telling you the exact same thing. You sit him down and say, I got physical evidence tying you to 2 dead bodies. I'll be back in 5 minutes. and let
It was like they were
sweat.
interviewing him for selling weed.
Right.
It's
Right.
like, you know, I mean, number
Right.
one, as soon as they had the name, they should have ran his name and find out who he is before you. I mean, why would you walk in there blind, not knowing who you're going to, a gun that's potentially in a double homicide? Why, you know, I would, at least me, and I'm not even a cop, I would want to know, what am I walking into?
What am I
Who is
walking
this
into?
person? Is this guy a threat? It's
Yep.
like, you know, what, you know,
Yep, because as soon as he would have spun me that bullshit, excuse my French, I'd have said, you know what? I've already checked your record, dude. I know your history. You're telling me you weren't involved in this? I'll be back in 5 minutes. Just let him sweat. Let him sweat. But as soon as they said, we're here to talk to you about a gun used to kill Steve McNair, not even mention Jenny, they gave him every opportunity to make up that story. Plus, he had that 15-minute window from the time they left the guy who originally had the gun that sold it to Gilliam. I guarantee if you pull his phone records, he called Gilliam. Hey, man, police were just over here about that gun. I told them I sold it to you for $100. Man, I sold it to a girl. I don't even know her name. She gave me $100. I needed it for gas money. Even in 2009, $100 is not getting you. That ain't life-changing money, even in 2009. So you mean to tell me you sold this gun that you bought to protect your family because you had a break-in, but yet you're going to sell it for $100 because you're just that hard up?
No.
yeah. And he said he didn't know her, and then they have a bunch of texts with each
Right.
other.
All of it. It's all fishy. None of it makes sense.
Yep.
Right. Well,
That's crazy. Well, once again, very illuminating.
yes.
As horrific as it sounds, it's very illuminating. We'll dive deeper into some of the. I'm going to try to get some of these people that we talked about, see if they're willing to talk to us. But there's a, you know, it says here in the notes that they want to talk, so I want to see if we can get that. But we're still waiting to hear back from Jeff Fisher, who I spoke to a couple weeks ago, his coach, maybe some other players who can provide some other background insight into what was going on in Steve's life at the time, because it sounds like the people that were closest to him there really haven't painted a real clear picture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and listen, they all have motives.
They all do, except the one
it all
that
comes down to like a simple investigation. What is who would want him killed? I mean, there's even stuff which talking about the unsigned will, you know, and the prenuptial agreement that can be used, and that and who has that prenuptial document? Who has possession of it? I mean, it's like it's very muddy.
Lost in space. You know, it's.
I mean, when you're dealing with someone like that with a lot of money, I mean, you know,
all of it's
sad. My wife will never have to sign a prenup if I ever get married again, because I don't have anything. But you know, like, Steve had a lot of money. But you know, I can bang off 3 people who had the prime motive to do this, and not one of them is named Jenny Kazemi.
Right.
Exactly.
All right, Vincent.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Good luck on your new job, man.
Good luck.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk to you soon.
All right.
I appreciate it.